Neutral is not synonymous with straight. A very common argument in the strength sports world is upper back rounding or thoracic spine flexion good or is it bad? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not good, nor is it bad. It's neither inherently good or inherently bad. It's a highly contextual conversation around the lifter themselves. But the main point I want to make here that this slide demonstrates really well is a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that a neutral spine position is synonymous with a perfectly straight spine position, and that is not the case. Neutral is a bit of a range, as this slide actually demonstrates. So what I commonly run into is I'll make a post around positional degradation in the deadlift, let's say, and I'll show massive degrees of posterior pelvic tilt, lumbar spine flexion, and things of that nature. And what a lot of people will do, a surprising amount of people will do, is they'll look at that and say, fuck you, this is bro science. And they point out a few very successful deadlifters that have just a little bit of upper spine rounding, thinking that that disproves my claim. But it is fundamentally different than what I'm speaking out against, which is why if you look at the bad examples in my video, I don't show that. They are, even with that little bit of rounding, they are within the range of neutral. This is very important to actually understand. And for me personally, as a coach, the proxies I like to use to determine if a little bit of thoracic spine flexion is okay or not is three in particular, three main ones in particular. The first of which is, does it cause pain? Second of which is it dynamic or is it more so static? So a lot of lifters, for example, will use this as an excuse to have massive upper back or upper back position degradation midway through deadlift and think, it's fine because XYZ lifter has a similar position. No. It's very different if it happens dynamically midway through deadlift. And then lastly, do you have lockout issues? A lot of lifters will take this way too far, have upper back rounding far outside of the range of neutral, and they can't lock out their deadlift to save their life because they created a position in which they then have to try to fix at the top of the deadlift, which with 5, 6, 7, 8, 900 pounds or just your top end loads becomes just about impossible. So every single meet on their second and third attempts, for some reason, they get red lights across the board. For some reason, they just can't lock out the deadlift. But the deeper reason why is because they are taking that upper back rounding way too far and they can't lock out with it. So those are the three proxies in which I use to decide if your upper back rounding is something that we need to address or not. But there's plenty of all-time world record holders, great deadlifters, not all of them, but there's plenty of them that have a little bit of upper back rounding and they still succeed. They still hit massive loads, all-time world record loads, because they are still within the range of neutral. And if you look at the lower segments of their spine, if you look at, do they have any posterior pelvic tilt? Do they have any massive degree of lumbar flexion? No, they don't. This down here is a canister of pressure and stability. This up here has just a little bit of flexion that falls within the range of neutral. This is very important to understand, and hopefully this graph gives people a little better understanding of the idea or the term itself, a neutral spine position.